All right, so you're hiring people for your business. And now the question is, am I hiring them as independent contractors or am I hiring them as employees? And what's the difference? Why does anybody care? What does it mean for me? I'm gonna go into that in this video. Before you watch this video, I have a small little ask of you. If you're enjoying the content that I'm posting, I'd really appreciate if you smash that like button and share it on your social media channels, because it'll help me grow this channel and answer more questions for people just like you. Now, let's get on with the video. So one of the things that I get asked a lot is, how do I classify people that I'm bringing on board for my business? As you're a growing business, obviously you're gonna bring people on board to leverage your time, which is the most important thing. But then how do you categorize that for tax purposes? Are you gonna pay these people as independent contractors or employees? Obviously we know that paying somebody as an independent contractor is less costly for the business, and why would I wanna bring them on as an employee? Let's go into that. First of all, the most important thing here, what the IRS and the Department of Labor really looks at from a bottom line perspective, is control. Whoever you hire for your business, if you have control over them, then most likely they're an employee. And if you don't have control over them, then most likely they're an independent contractor. So if you're bringing somebody on board and you're having them work in your office or remotely for your business, you're giving them a handbook, you're telling them exactly how things are done in your office, you're making sure that they show up from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. You may offer to pay them some overtime. You control every step of the way for everything that they do. Most of the time, that would tread into an employee relationship. And if you give them equipment that you either send to their house or they're using your equipment in your office to get their work done, a lot of the time that would be looked at from the Department of Labor as an employee. Now, let's move over to the other side. What if you bring somebody on board and you say, I need this project done by this date. I don't care how you do it. I want you to make sure that it looks like it's our brand. We have a particular way of doing things. But as far as the specific deliverable and how you actually come to that deliverable, I want you to use your professional judgment, because that's why I'm bringing you on board. And you can really get this done at any hour that you'd like. I don't really need to communicate you aside from maybe once a day or once every couple of days, just from a status report, just to see where we stand. And then that individual goes and takes that project and works on it whenever they want. 5 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, doesn't matter. My only real concern is that you allocate at least 3 hours a day just so we have some momentum and we can actually deliver by the date that we have to deliver to our clients. You're using all your own equipment, you're scheduling your own hours, and the only thing that you're really answering for is the deliverable, which is why I brought you on board in the first place. In a scenario like that, you're most likely going to be treating that person as an independent contractor. Now, why does this matter? This is where we really delve in and kind of go over the pros and cons of independent contractor versus employee. Now, if you're bringing somebody on board as an employee, there are lots of overhead costs that you have to pay to facilitate that employee. And that's perfectly okay when you have morale that you want to build, retain great employees, make sure that you're actually getting the best of the best. You want to give them benefits. You're paying for workers' compensation, unemployment insurance, health insurance, matching a 401k plan. That's kind of an employee back-end overhead expense. And not to mention that you're paying for 50% of their Social Security and Medicare tax, right? But when you're working with an independent contractor, you just pay the contract fee. If they say this job is going to cost $12,000, then you cut a check for $12,000 and there's nothing else that you have to do. You don't worry about it. You just worry about the deliverable. No loyalty, nothing. That's it. That's a big difference from a cost and overhead perspective. Independent contractors are not employees. There aren't all these other things that you have to worry about when you hire somebody as an independent contractor. And another thing that you have to take into account is that when you're hiring people either as an employee or an independent contractor, you want to make sure that the agreements that you have with them reflect that. So an employee would have an employment agreement, an independent contractor would probably have an independent contractor agreement, and most of the time, if you're working with an independent contractor, they're the ones that are probably going to give you an agreement because they're in business to doing this as an independent contractor. So they probably give all of their clients, because keep in mind, as an independent contractor, you're their client, they're probably going to give you that agreement to sign. And then we also have to talk about paperwork from the back end. Employees, you have a lot of paperwork that you have to hand to them. You have to make sure that they complete this paperwork for you to onboard them. In the United States, we're looking at a W-4 form, which enables you to file a W-2. You have the similar form on the state level. You have to have an I-9 because you have to make sure that the person that you're hiring has work authorization in the United States. You want to make sure that you get a form of ID from them to make sure that they are who they say they are and they do have the proper work authorization. Independent contractor, you're not asking them for any of this information. You don't need their social security number. You don't even need their address. All you need to do is give them a form W-9 just to have for your records their information to see whether you have to issue them a 1099 at the end of the year or not. Most likely it's going to be a 1099 NEC, non-employee compensation. For your employees, on the other hand, you're going to give them a W-2. Most people are familiar with both of those forms, but that's how it all comes into the big picture. Independent contractor or employee? It depends. It's a very specific topic that you want to discuss thoroughly with your tax advisor, and make sure to get that right. You don't want to end up in hot water if the DOL ever comes knocking on your door, which you don't want. Make sure that you're talking about these things with your accountant or tax advisor before you bring these people on board, because it's just going to make things much smoother when you're already running things along. Like, follow, and subscribe for more videos.